So, quick little addition, since we already have a real basic inventory here. If you haven't seen it, go watch Simple Inventory. It's there. And I wanted to just give a little bit of UI, more importantly, a carousel UI for it. So a little different, and it'll just be a small little quick thing. So here we have the 3 doors and we have the 3 keys. I made a folder called items, and I'm going to prefab these keys. That's going to be step 1. Step 2 is we also need a render texture. Okay, that's going to be our inventory. You can adjust the size, right? Let's go ×4 and ×4. Maybe give it some anti-aliasing. That's fine. Whatever. We need. I need another well, I guess I can use this canvas. It doesn't really matter. This one's already here with the health bar. So let's just tag on to this one. What we need is a inventory of some type, right? So you would need a panel, or well, I guess you don't have to have a panel, I suppose. Let's even just stick it over here like this, and let's give this a nice darker color, just a little bit of transparency. I don't know, something like that. Not a big deal. And I'm gonna give it a raw image. Make sure it's not an image, it's a raw image. And I'm going to just stretch this out a bit. Yeah, I should probably still make it square. So let's go with 275 by 275. And we'll position it kind of in the middle of it. Okay, cool. There is this guy. So we need a camera for this system. There's a camera, and I'm going to put it at 0, and then I'm going to put it at 10 and turn it 180. Now this camera, under the output texture, I'm going to drag in that render texture. Under the raw image, I'm also going to drag in that render texture. So now whatever this camera is supposed to be seeing, which we can't use it as a camera now, but it renders into the UI. So if we say, well, I mean, you could set up all sorts of things. So let's create a inventory item, and I'm going to put this at 0, 0, 0. And I'm going to give this an empty, and this is going to be our carousel, right? So there's that. And if we look at it, so the camera is there, and if you want, you can actually give these things tags so you can see them. But I've got my 3D off, so you got to turn that on. So there's my camera. And there's my inventory. Right. So my camera's facing this way, and this guy is facing the camera that way, in the carousel. So he is, well, 10. They're 10 units away. Keep that in mind. So, what do we need? We also going to need we're going to call this the pointer. Whoops. And that'd be about it. Now, we prefabbed these keys, right? So what we need is a hash table. And this can be some sort of master inventory, right? So I'm gonna give it a pre-fill count of say 3, and I'm just gonna use these keys. Now, normally this is you don't have to do this, but this makes life a lot easier for you. If you have items here, and you see how we have the item name yellow key, that's what we're gonna use. What would be the proper thing to do here is to take this name and make it the same name is here, right? The same name there. That just makes things a lot easier for stuff like this. But in this case, I'm not gonna bother doing that. But if you do want to build something good like this, it's best to just match those names up. It makes life a lot easier for you. But I'm only dealing with 3 items, so I'm not that worried about it. But anyways, we have those same keys and objects that they now go to. Okay, so we have our inventory here. Let's come along and build just a little tiny piece of logic here. And let's build a little piece of logic on here. So this one needs 2 events to happen. Open and close. 2 things need to happen when those happen. Open and close. So up in our canvas, we're going to send event to the inventory to close. We also wish to deactivate this object, which, I mean, at the moment it's already deactivated. Big whoop. Get key down. Let's use the key I, maybe, or you can use a button. It really doesn't matter. You just need an input of some type of thing. Let's just call it switch. Right, so now we can add switch, and I'm going to take this whole thing, duplicate it, bring it over here, and back and forth. But this, on this side, we're not going to send close, we're going to send open, and we're going to say activate. Just like that. So just that little bit of logic there, as simple as it is, simply just brings it open and closed. Right, very, very basic. And it also tells this thing to do something. We don't know what it's going to do yet, but it's going to swap back and forth. All right, cool. So carousel. Let's build a carousel. So what is a carousel? Well, when we open, we need a few things to happen here. We need to hash table get next. So we're looking into the player's inventory. So we want to make sure we got the player here. And we know the player's inventory is called inventory. So that's what we're looking at. We're going to loop, and we're going to done. We need the key. We'll call it current key. Type integer, which really this part doesn't matter. It does if you want to add in and add some other UI stuff to the carousel. Like you can add quantities and stuff like that. I'm not worried about that right now. We're just going to loop. We get through. So we're going through the player's inventory, what they have. And now as we go through that and we get their key, we want to hash table get. So now we want to get from ourselves, because ourselves have our own hash table called master, and we're going to get the key, whatever the player has. We want the corresponding item, which is a game object. So this is the, we'll call it the selected item. Now we wish to create this item. All right, we're going to create the selected item. The parent is going to be the carousel. The spawn point is going to be the carousel, and we're going to have created selected item. Okay, now we want to, I'm going to transform point and we're going to transform a point from our carousel. And we're going to say we'll use say 8 on the Z. So 8 units in front of our carousel, and that's going to give us a position. Now I want to set position. Actually, I guess you always could just use the local. You don't even need to transform, right? Because if we don't transform point, we could say, okay, the created selected item on its self space, go ahead 8. You can also use a variable for this. So let's get rid of position so we don't get it confused with stuff. All right, so now we need to add this to an array. It's just a little tiny array. So let's say this is all items. It's a game object style. So now we array add. So add all items, add our created item. Cool, now we can go back. That's all we got to do. Now on the close, let's destroy objects. It needs an array, destroy all items. And that's all it's going to do. So we're going to go through the player's inventory. We match up the item and we create it at the carousel, 8 on its Z, and we add it to an array. Okay, cool. Now when we're done, what do we need? We need the length of the array. So all items, so this is the number of items. Now we need a float operator. So we're going to take a convert number of items. Oh wait, no. We're going to take 360 and convert the number of items, divide angle of items. All right, so if you have 2 items, you have an item going at more or less 0 and 180, right? If you have 3 items, they go at 120s. So it just kind of gives you that angle. So now that we have the angle, let's just move down. Now let's array get next. So we're going to go through all our items. So I'm going to use that loop event and that done event. We have the current item. You could reuse the variable there if you wanted to. Not that worried about it. And as we go through, I did make a new action, and I'll put this on the ecosystem, or not on the ecosystem, on my GitHub, and I'll link it in the description. But all it is rotate around 2. So rotate around itself, logic-wise, can do this, but the way the action's set up, it can't. So I just made a slight alteration to it. So object we're going to rotate around is our carousel. The object rotating is the current item. That's what we're looking at here, the current item. And we need it to, on the axis of the Y, so we're going in the Y axis, like spinning around, and we need an angle. So the angle is, let's say current angle. Now we don't want them all to go on the current angle, right? Because the current angle is only good for one of them. So now we float add current angle. We're going to add the angle of items. So the first one, this one technically happens at 0. Then we add to it, come back, and then when we come back, we again set it, add it, go. Right? Plain and simple. Oh, see how I have 2 audio listeners? Because I have another camera. I'm just going to get rid of that audio listener. It's not needed. Not needed. So once we have that, all the items will be in the proper, like in a carousel. And it doesn't matter if you have 5 items, 20 items, 100 items, they'll all go evenly split around. So once we get there, what do we need to do? We have an axis event, or you can get key down, get button down, whatever you want. We're going to say left and right, and we can go left or right. So if we go right, if we want to rotate this thing right, what do we need to do? Well, we need to float operator, and we need to go, actually, you know what, we need to reset this value because we're going to use this value. I'm going to put a little action here. Let's set float value current angle to 0. Let's bring him down. So we used him up here, we're done with him. Let's set his value to 0 and reuse him down here. So we're going to float operator. We want to take current angle. We want to add angle of items, and we're going to get a set angle. Right? Now we're going to float interpolate, and we're going to go from, actually, you know what, we could set this as current angle. That's going to save us a variable. Let's get rid of set angle. We don't need it. So we're going to go from current angle to, oh wait, no, we will need that. Sorry. Because we need to go to, all right, let's bring that back. Let's set angle. So we're gonna go to set angle, and we can give it a time, whatever time you want, and we're gonna store that as current angle. Now we're going to set rotation of this guy on the Y to current angle every frame. Now when this thing's done, let's use a finished event on it and just go back. Capisci, capisci? Now, when we go the other way, it's pretty close to the same, obviously, but not quite, because we're going to take the float operator and we're saying, okay, we're taking our current angle that we're currently at and the angle of items, but now we're going to subtract it. We're not adding it. We have the set angle. So now we're going from the current angle to the set angle, and we store into the current angle, but now it's subtracted value, and we set it. Right? Just like that. So if we hit play, let's just kind of see how that looks. Let's grab our inventory so we can see the logic. And we come along, grab a few things. Now I hit I, and we have our items. And if I hit right, we go over here. If I hit left, we go this way. Pretty snazzy. Said now if you want to put UI here and put like a value in here, you could do that as well. It's not a big deal. So that's cool, but the reason why we have the pointer is for one little thing here. is from this guy, let's raycast. I'm going to raycast 2 from the pointer, and these items are on the default layer, which is fine. You can put them on a different layer if you wish. I'm going to go in Z space self distance. Actually, really all it needs is like 10, and store the hit object. So now we have the hit object, right? And if we look at selected object. So if we now pop over here, right? We have, oh, the selected object's not what we wanted, is it? Did I use the wrong thing? Oh man, selected object. I don't want a bool. I want to store the hit object. Selected object. Okay, let's come out of this. I don't got to do it twice. Selected object. That's supposed to be a game object, not a bool. Silly me. Store hit object. Selected object. There we go. Okay. All right. One little mishap. Supposed to be a game object, made a bool. So if we pick this item up and I hit I, there's our item. We're looking at the blue key, right? I hit I again. All the items got just destroyed. And now I hit I. Oh, our panel didn't come on this time. Oh, we did something. We did something. But anyways, so there's the yellow. Oh, okay, we have to fix something up there. So we have an empty spot. All right, so let's check something here. Oh, yeah, right. So when we open up, let's take this away from here. Because we're dealing with arrays, let's array resize. Let's take all items, resize it to 0 at the very start. That will prevent that weird extra item that's not there and the destroying issue, right? Because now I pop it up, you know, and I can spin this around. I hit I, it goes away. I can pop it up again and whatever. I can come along here and I can bring this one up, and now I can spin back and forth. I said you can adjust those times. You know, I pop that up. Oh, we have a slight issue. All right, so let's take a quick little look. So we have was that supposed to be this way? Oh, that looks like we're doing something on the world. Let's go space self. On the rotations. Okay, okay. All right, I think I got the camera on the wrong side of things. I think. So let's just fix that up. I could have sworn I was supposed to be on that side. Because if I go this side and go, say, -20, now we're looking at the other side of it. So now we're over there. Oh, that's not good. Looked better before. Oh, I'm way out. -10. Okay, I think that's all I had to do. Could have sworn there was a reason I put the camera 180 in the beginning. Could have sworn there was a reason. And this kind of starting point, except for that one. I'm not too sure why that one's so iffy. Because here we have this. 2 works. See, that one works. So I think what we want to do, so here we have it coming down to our axis event, and it does things, right? A quick little trick here is just to go to one of the sides. So it defaults saying, hey, let's figure things out first and then come here. And that'll solve one of those issues. The other issue is we're going to set the current angle. Let's move this above so it happens first. So that first item will get that rotation. Alright, so now we pick up one item. And we're still way the hell over there. We get 2 items. That's fine. We get 3 items, and that's fine. It's really just if there's one item. So let's, well, I guess we could always put in just a tiny bit of if there's one item kind of logic in there, right? Is if the length is oh, you know what? I wonder. The way it's set up, we're dividing it by 0. I wonder if Unity even likes that. Oh no, it does. And if I set that all right, so let's all right, so if we had something here that said float compare, not with bools. I don't know why I'd have a bool in there. If we could even use all items, number of items. Number of items is equal to 360. If it's equal, set solo. If it's less, skip. So skip can just go down there. So here we can literally just finish and go into here. Now we know if we're dividing it, we're going to set that. We get number of items. We get this angle, and it's going to be 360. Let's just, if it's solo, set float value, angle of items. Man, this thing is just screwing with me. Angle of items still says 360. Oh, frick. Number of items, I have it equal to if it's equal to 1, if it's set solo, if it's greater skip. Here I am thinking of the angle, right? It's the number of items. All right, well, that probably will help. Right, so that's okay, that's 180. It should be 180. Let's go back to 0. Right, so no number of the angle. No, that's not. Okay, I am gonna, well, I guess I don't need to put breakpoint. Oh, okay, well at least now it's doing that. So that's okay. All right. Should I possibly go to the left side first? Is that its problem? Because it has that one kind of negative value, so it's kind of, like, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, yeah, you know, like, I don't think that's going to matter. But other than doing this, if it's, you know, skip, go here, set solo, go there. So if it's solo, we don't use it. If it is, and use that little trick. Because now it's there, but we still have this. Now we could add this in front of all that stuff as well, right? So when you go right, you kind of go up like that instead, and then put this on the other side as well. So when we go left, it's good, but if it's a solo item, just don't, it's pretty much saying just don't move it. Just ignore the input and just keep it where it is, right? Can't move it. Come along, we get 2 of them, and now we're like, oh, okay, now we're here. Now we have 2 of them. And keep in mind, if you're watching this at all, this should be popping up, and it's not. Where is my ray? Can we debug it? Oh, I'm firing it the wrong way now. Because we moved it backwards. Direction's now negative Z. Right, because we're looking at the yellow key, and we come along here, we're looking at the red key, blue key. But now we know what item we're actually looking at. So yeah, because I moved that camera, I should have flopped that. Okay, so that all works. So like I said, I mean, now we have a reference to these items through this inventory here, right? And you could easily, very easily just add, if you wanted to, a UA or UI, you know, text component or whatever to it. You know, stuff it down here or something. Not a big deal. You know, I'll make it white or something. Let's go 0. Put it in the middle. Make it bigger. Something like that. And now when we say, for example, we move over to this object, oh, how are we gonna want to do that? We need to find we would need the hash table. You know what? It would be easier if in these objects, right, if you added a FSM for the inventory, let's just call it in for short, give it a variable int, we'll call this QU for quantity, copy that, add it to the red and yellow, paste component as new. So now we have a way that these things can talk. So when we go to create the inventory, right, when we're going through here and we create the object, and we have, okay, we'll take this result now, say current quantity. We can now, as we create it, here, when we create these objects, we can set FSM int, and I'm just going to grab one of these in for a second. We want the in and the Q. So this is of the created selected item, and now we want the current quantity. So as we create these things, we're going to set that value. Then when we come down here, because we get this value, we can get FSM int. This is also the same way you could well, you can get all sorts of information. It's just kind of a neat little let's just we'll reuse current quantity, and this is of the selected item, so what we're looking at. And now we'll just drag this guy in, text UI set text to the current quantity. Right now we only got one of each here, so I'm going to just duplicate a few of these. All right, something like that. Because now if we look, I come along, it says we have 0. That's, you know, wrong. Oh, he's looking at that. Oh, whoops. I'm looking at selected item. I'm supposed to be looking at the selected object. This is what I get for naming variables pretty close and not paying freaking attention. That's what I get. Right? We have one. We have one of those. Come along here. We have one, and 3. There we go. So we have a way you can get data off of these things, which is coming from, technically, the player's inventory, right? That's coming from there. That's getting fed into these objects as they're created. We pull the data off of these things as we look at them with our raycast. So there you have a carousel inventory.